Coming up on Network Africa. South Africa's African National Congress slashes planned VAT hike after pushback from opposition parties. Rwandan beekeeper arrested in U.S. over genocide charges. Plus, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission rescue Nigerian girls from Ghana. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Nayo Olange. South Africa's finance minister has dropped plans to increase value-added tax VAT in a major climb down to prevent the collapse of the coalition government. Enoch Godongwana's decision came after the second biggest party, the Democratic Alliance, DA, threatened to quit the government, warning that a VAT increase would hurt the poor the most. Mr. Godongwana, a member of President Cyril Ramaphosa's African National Congress, had argued the increase was needed as the government was facing a financial crisis. But with other parties also rejecting the hike, it also raised the prospect of Parliament taking the unprecedented step of voting down the national budget, forcing him and the ANC to concede. In the meantime, the finance minister, Enoch Godongwana, has raised concerns about deepening vulnerabilities in emerging markets and across the African continent, calling it a pressing challenge. He made the remarks while attending the second G20 finance ministers and central bank governors meeting in Washington, D.C. Key topics on the agenda included the replenishment of the African Development Fund, the high cost of capital for African nations, and ongoing reforms to the international financial architecture. There was no official communique issued after the meeting, and Mr. Godongwana offered an explanation for the decision.
We took a conscious decision even before that if we don't issue a communique, the standard practice since Indonesia after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, you will recall, there's been difficulty in the finance sector to issue a communique since then. But the standard practice we've established is that in the absence of a communique, we issue a chairman's statement. In this regard, we took a decision as the presidency that in this particular session, we're not going to issue a chairman's statement. We'll do that in July.
The latest projections from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, says Kenya is on track to become East Africa's largest economy by 2025, overtaking regional rival Ethiopia. The IMF estimates Kenya's gross domestic product will reach $132 billion, surpassing Ethiopia's projected $117 billion. The shift marks a significant change in the regional economic hierarchy, driven by contrasting policy choices and macroeconomic conditions in both countries. Ethiopia's recent move to devalue its currency, the birr, by more than 55% in 2024 helped the country unlock $3.4 billion in IMF support and $16.6 billion in World Bank funding, aiding efforts to restructure debt and stabilize its economy. However, this decision has led to a surge in inflation and import costs, placing additional strain on a country that's already grappling with the effects of internal conflict and climate disruptions. Well, in contrast, Kenya has demonstrated relative macroeconomic resilience. According to analysts, the Kenyan shilling appreciated by 21% in 2024, becoming the world's best performing currency, according to market analysts. Zimbabwe's finance minister, Dr. Mthuli Nkumbe, has confirmed that the government is committed to compensating white farmers who lost their land during the fast-track land reform back in the year 2000, and it's in an effort to improve relations with the United States under President Donald Trump. Mr. Nkube says Zimbabwe struck an agreement which is called the Global Compensation Deed a few years back and have now begun to honor it. In April 2024, the U.S. imposed an 18% tariff on Zimbabwean exports. In response, President Emerson Mnangagwa announced the removal of tariffs on U.S. goods, seeking to create what the government calls a positive relationship with Washington. Finance Minister Mthuli Nkumbe announced that the government had released $3.1 million in the first phase of compensation. However, many farmers argue that the compensation is too low and poorly managed, with only a small number of farmers receiving payments.
One of our commitments as we try to reform the Zimbabwe economy to clear our areas is really to compensate the former farm owners who lost their farms during the fast-track land reform program. So we struck an agreement which is called the Global Compensation Deed a few years back, and we have now begun to honor that agreement. So we've begun this process. So recently we paid $3.1 million, which is 1% coupon that is due to the farmers. Basically, 378 farmers were covered out of the 740 farmers who had been approved by our land committee for payment. So we're pleased with this development, and farmers have been equally pleased. The compensation under the Global Compensation Deed is voluntary. Those who wish to be compensated, they can come forward.
The land reform started, and I don't think anyone can dispute that something needed to happen at some stage. And so we've never opposed land reform as such. We've always agreed that it needed to take place and land distributed more evenly or more fairly within Zimbabwe.
A Rwandan beekeeper living in the United States has been arrested over his alleged involvement in the 1994 genocide in his country. The U.S. Justice Department says Faustin Nsabukunzi is accused of committing heinous acts of violence abroad when he served as a local leader at the start of the genocide. The 65-year-old suspect was also charged with visa fraud and attempted naturalization fraud when he moved to the U.S. in 2003. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges and has been released on bail. Mr. Nsabukunzi is alleged to have set up roadblocks during the genocide to detain and kill Tutsis and to have participated in the killings. He was subsequently convicted and sentenced to life in prison in absentia by a Rwandan genocide court. The suspect was arrested on Thursday at his home in New York, where he had settled as a gardener and beekeeper in an exclusive enclave on Long Island. In Ghana, opposition members of parliament are fiercely condemning the suspension of the country's Chief Justice, accusing President John Mahama of trying to pack the courts with justices who are sympathetic to the governing party, the NDC. Gertrude Tokono was removed from her post on Wednesday, the first time a Chief Justice has been suspended in the country's history. The action was taken after 3 petitions which made allegations against Ms. Tokono were filed. Well, Mr. Mahama's supporters have backed the move as a long overdue move to clean up the judiciary, but it is being condemned by the opposition, who in a statement called it a breven judicial coup, reckless abuse of executive power, and a direct assault on the independence of Ghana's judiciary. On Tuesday, a statement from the presidency said the Chief Justice was asked to step aside so that the allegations against her could be investigated. Since the suspension was announced, 2 more petitions have been filed against Ms. Tokono. The Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, have rescued 3 more girls that were trafficked to Ghana. The 3 girls trafficked to Ghana were at the NIDCOM Lagos office on Thursday and thereafter handed over to the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP. Chairman CEO of NIDCOM, Honorable Abike Dabiri-Erewa, put the numbers of those rescued from Ghana so far at about 200, noting that human trafficking will not stop if perpetrators and agents are not exposed and shamed. She also thanked the NIDO Ghana Board of Trustees, who has been consistent in the war against trafficking by working with the Ghanaian security agencies to rescue victims. The Nigerian Embassy in Ghana also for effective consular support, and the First Lady of Nigeria, Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, for helping out with transportation. The latest returnees, aged 17 to 19, are from Bayelsa and Ebonyi states. They claim that their aunties lured them into the sexual trade in Ghana under the guise of helping them to secure jobs there. Over 350 African artworks are on display at the Louvre, Abu Dhabi, as part of the Kings and Queens of Africa Forms and Figures of Power exhibition, celebrating Africa's rich history, creativity, and cultural legacy from the 11th to the 21st centuries. The first of its kind exhibition in the United Arab Emirates and the region dedicated to African art explores leadership across more than 20 African kingdoms. Our UAE correspondent, Mayowa Adegoke, has more.
For the first time in the Middle East, Kings and Queens of Africa, an art exhibition spotlighting revered power brokers in African history, is staged at the Louvre, Abu Dhabi, the region's leading museum. Unlike many other Africa-inspired exhibitions which highlight colonization, curators of this showcase say their focus is on telling a different story.
Mostly around the world, people know about slave trade and colonialism, and they are not aware of this great history of major power figures. So really the idea of this exhibition is to present this other history of the African continent through historical objects, of course. We have 359 artifacts in the exhibition, but also with contemporary arts to express the idea that this power history doesn't only belong to the past.
From golden artifacts, iconic pieces from across the continent, to contemporary creations, the exhibition goes beyond the history of Africa and follows the influence of these figures of power into present-day realities. US-based visual artist Ayanna Jackson's contributions to the exhibition are part of a series titled Take Me to the Water. She highlights the connection of African Americans and Afro-descendants around the world to the legends of the past.
As a descendant of the transatlantic slave trade who has experienced a disconnect, a very real disconnect geographically, but also spiritually. And then on the continent, you also experience, in some cases, a spiritual disconnect from these stories and these worlds and these kings and queens and these gods and goddesses.
From present to future generations, the event also explores history's influence in pop culture, highlighting their transformation from traditional art into new forms of expression, such as games.
It's also really interesting because when we were working around the pop culture room, we discovered that a lot of African designers, creators, writers use this history of power, this figure of power, to address questions as identity, empowerment, pride, and to reconnect with the new generation and to tell them this history they doesn't know, they doesn't learn it in school.
Kings and Queens of Africa, Forms and Figures of Power is on display at the Louvre until May 25th. From Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, Mayowa Adegoke for Channels Television.
We'll take a break now on the program. Still to come. Nigeria launched Artificial Intelligence Industry Collective, setting the pace for AI development on the continent. That's on our Africa Tech segment. Welcome back to the program. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is calling on Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, who have withdrawn from the bloc, to completely withdraw from all its institutions and key agencies. The organization also demands that countries hand over its institutions located in their nations, saying that all nationals of the three countries working in its agencies would leave their posts. The group made the announcement at a meeting of foreign ministers of its members held this week in Ghana. Nigerian Foreign Minister Yusuf Tuga, who was at the conference, mentioned some of the key agencies and institutions that the three countries are now set to leave. They include a major health agency in Burkina Faso, which will be redeployed to another ECOWAS country. There's also a major financial institution which the minister says is to ensure that financial transactions are conducted in accordance with the law and to prevent illicit drug trafficking. The minister also mentioned other major agencies in charge of animal health, roads and gas pipelines in the ECOWAS region, saying that all would be resolved with the three countries. At the end of January, these three countries under military rule officially completed their withdrawal from ECOWAS after more than a year of negotiations. Well, the 15-member bloc has said it would leave its doors open to the three countries should they decide to rejoin. Benin Republic's government has admitted that 54 soldiers were killed by suspected jihadists in the country's north last week near the borders with Burkina Faso and Niger. The authorities had previously said that only 8 soldiers were killed. The revised figure makes it the deadliest known attack since insurgents began operating in northern Benin at the beginning of the decade. The attack has been claimed by an Al-Qaeda-linked group, GNIM, which is based in Mali, but has in recent years expanded its operations to neighboring countries. Here in Nigeria, as the 3-day Lagos Tourism NBC Trade Fair ends, the Lagos State government has been commended for supporting small and medium enterprises and entrepreneurs to showcase their brand visibility to the global map. Speaking on the success of the trade fair, the state's special advisor on tourism, arts and culture, Mr. Idris Aregbe, expressed satisfaction with the turnout of over 100,000 participants for the 3 days, making vendors a record massive sale. The convener of the Niger Brand Chicks, Nelly Agbogu, also says this year's Lagos Tourism NBC Trade Fair edition has surpassed the last fair, which generated over 1.3 billion naira income.
This is the reward of someone who understands the brief, and we know what we want to do, and we know how we want to achieve it. And we want to thank every Lagosians who have also come out, to support vendors, to support Lagos, to constantly, for us to constantly put Lagos on the map. Lagos is known for commerce, Lagos is known for entertainment, Lagos is known for quite a number of things, culture and quite a number of things. And what we're doing today is to, re-echo the importance of entertainment and commerce in our city, Lagos.
This has been an amazing experience. Business owners are happy. They are seeing the visibility, the sales, and a lady just gave a testimonial on how she got a customer who bought chicken from her. Chicken that she sells at 4,100 naira a kg. Someone bought 5,000 kg at 20.5 million naira. This is what happens when you partner with Lagos State. This is what happens when Lagos Tourism comes on board to push the businesses, from the marketing to the visibility to the tools and exposure to grow your business is what we are seeing. The result is what the business owners are seeing.
Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. Nigeria has officially launched the Artificial Intelligence Industry Collective, a platform that will bring together government, industry leaders, academia, and civil society to build an inclusive, homegrown AI ecosystem that drives real impact. Led by the Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, the initiative signals a new era, one where Nigeria isn't just catching up with global trends, but setting the pace for AI development in Africa.
It's a new dawn for Nigeria's AI journey, one driven by collective action, innovation, and the power of artificial intelligence.
Celebrating the emerging local AI success stories.
At the heart of this movement is the official launch of the Nigeria Artificial Intelligence Industry Collective, an initiative established by the Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. Gathered in the room are some of the nation's leading voices in AI, all united by a shared goal, which is to accelerate Nigeria's prosperity through an inclusive and future-ready AI ecosystem.
Our vision is clear: build a nationally rooted, contextually relevant, inclusive, and coordinated ecosystem for Nigeria that reflects on the ethical governance and inclusion needs of us as a country.
But what is the agenda of the Nigeria AI Industry Collective?
We want to drive mass literacy. We want everyone everywhere to have a broad understanding of how AI can lead to productivity. How can I deploy AI as a business, small and medium entrepreneurs? How do we mobilize the industry to support the academia? How do we get the MTNs of this world, the InterSwitch of this world, who are sitting on tons of data, to give the data to Dr. Dumiwa? Interesting, Dr. Dumiwa, behind you is the data champion for InterSwitch, so start striking deals.
The Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy lays emphasis on the power of the collective, and that's to enable people create, innovate and solve real problems using AI.
Beyond these things that we see that may appear as the blocker is the asset that we have, which is our people. Nigerians will create. Nigerians are already building AI. But if we don't come together and build together, what's going to happen is that a lot of these solutions will end up not being recognized for our country. And we don't understand the power of recognition. When things are not recognized for nations, resources will not come towards those nations.
First launched in October 2024, the AI Collective represents a platform bringing together government, academia, industry leaders and civil society working hand in hand to harness artificial intelligence for real-world impact. And that vision is already taking shape with emerging homegrown success stories like Yuan GPT, MDoc, LangEasy, among others, leading the charge. Another major aspect of the launch is the unveiling of the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy and what it means to the Nigerian industry sector.
Our strategy is simple, but it is bold and it is audacious. And it's bold and audacious because we are Nigerians. We don't do simple things, right? So we want to do the big things, we want to solve big problems, and we believe that through everybody here, we can do it. So it's 5 pillars. It's 12 goals and 34 initiatives. And in implementation, we're all going to come back and do it together. But bottom line is 3 key issues: infrastructure, ecosystem, AI business transformation. And then we encapsulate it with responsible and ethical. And then the icing on the cake is governance. And I think by doing all these things, we can actually achieve our goals.
The Nigerian AI story is no longer just about potential, it's about progress. And as this collective gains momentum, it is clear that Nigeria is not just embracing artificial intelligence, it's defining what it looks like on the continent.
Local AI success stories.
And that's it on our program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde. Have a lovely weekend.